American company Palantir is providing intelligence to Ukraine to repel the Russian invasion. With the help of artificial intelligence, Palantir enables Ukraine to have a better understanding of the battlefield and gives it the exact location of Russian tanks, planes, and ships in real time so that the Ukrainian army can efficiently tackle the Russian threat on its soil. As Russia continues to mobilize more resources for its war against Ukraine, the government in Kyiv plans to beat Russia's advance in numbers by using artificial intelligence to defeat the enemy. Palantir was founded back in 2003 by a famous Silicon Valley investor, Peter Thiel, and a liberal doctor of philosophy, Alex Karp. At that time, the United States announced the war on terror after the September 11th attacks, successfully invaded Afghanistan, began the invasion of Iraq, and was looking for additional contractors to support its operations in the Middle East. Peter Thiel back then saw an opportunity and decided to help the American government avoid another 9/11 event. He had just sold PayPal to eBay for $1.5 billion and had enough money to start a hedge fund that was focused on investing in new companies. With enough capital to deploy, Peter Thiel teamed up with his friend Alex Karp, who finished a doctorate degree in Europe and was running an investment firm, to found Palantir, and named Alex Karp the chief executive of the company. The goal of Palantir was to create software that could collect, analyze, and organize large sets of data and turn that data into actionable insights. During his days at PayPal, Peter Thiel had a group of engineers who were using artificial intelligence and machine learning to develop fraud detection software based on the available data. Now the goal was to use that experience to help intelligence agencies make better use of their own data. After spending the initial funds to build the software, Palantir was looking for additional capital to scale its operations and find its first big customers. When it failed to convince several major venture firms to invest in the company, Palantir was able to get funding from the CIA-backed venture fund, which made it possible to quickly expand the business and sign software deals with the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the United States Army, and even with the IRS. After that, Palantir software had been actively used in different war zones by United States soldiers. In Afghanistan and Iraq, the United States Marines deployed Palantir software to predict the areas of possible insurgent attacks or conduct forensic analysis on the spot by quickly getting access to information such as DNA evidence and fingerprints that the United States intelligence agencies collected for decades, and receiving the results almost immediately. Palantir's software was also used to track the Chinese hackers that had gotten access to the emails of the Dalai Lama, and there were speculations that the company also helped the United States find out the exact location of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan in 2011. Back at home, police departments started using Palantir software to analyze data on previously committed crimes and make algorithms predict places where future crimes could be committed so that those areas could have a higher police presence. Palantir also began working with border control agents to track the location of illegal immigrants, and it also helped locate Mexican drug cartels who had murdered American customs agents. As Palantir's business was expanding, the company started to deploy its software in the private sector as well. Palantir began working with the drug companies to help them better analyze their data, and also cooperated with America's major banks to help them improve their fraud detection systems. Around this time, Palantir helped the FBI uncover Bernie Madoff's multi-billion-dollar Ponzi scheme, but its most revolutionary software was still a few years away. As Palantir started to sign new deals with organizations from the public and private sectors, foreign governments started to look for ways to infiltrate the company to learn how its algorithms worked. In June of 2018, Palantir's co-founder Peter Thiel traveled to Austria to attend the party of the German tech entrepreneur Christian Angermayer, who made a name for himself by launching a biopharma company and later his own investment fund. One of the other invitees of the party was the diplomat of Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Daniil Bislinger, who worked in Berlin in the Russian embassy and also served as an interpreter of Vladimir Putin from time to time. At the party, Christian Angermayer introduced Peter Thiel to Daniil Bislinger, who invited Thiel to attend the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum and arrange a meeting with Putin. Peter Thiel declined the invitation and said that Daniil Bislinger was not just a regular diplomat, but likely an FSB agent as well. Later, the German news website Der Spiegel published an investigation that linked Daniil Bislinger to the network of Russian operatives who cultivated pro-Russia sentiment in Germany and funded the right-wing AfD party which now has close ties to the Kremlin. Bisslinger's goal, likely, was to help Putin forge a meaningful relationship with Thiel, to use Thiel's influence at Palantir to Russia's advantage. That is why, in January of 2022, a month before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Daniil Bisslinger once again contacted Peter Thiel to invite him to the annual economic conference in St. Petersburg and promised to arrange a meeting with Putin. This time, Peter Thiel did not even respond to Bisslinger's invite. What Russians didn't know is that in 2021, Thiel started to cooperate with the FBI and became a confidential human source for the agency. The popular American news website, Business Insider, stated that Thiel was reporting to the agency about his foreign contacts and attempts by foreign governments to penetrate Silicon Valley. Business Insider stated that Thiel reported his contacts with Daniil Bisslinger to the agency and said that the Russian diplomat was likely an intelligence officer of the FSB. Peter Thiel also said that Russia had tried to work its way into his circle to push the Kremlin's interests. While the Kremlin failed to forge meaningful relationships with Peter Thiel and use his influence at Palantir to its advantage, the Russians nevertheless were about to experience firsthand how Palantir's algorithms work, as the company's software was about to be used against the Russian army on the battlefield. In 2021, as Peter Thiel began to cooperate with the FBI, Palantir launched its newest product called Meta Constellation, which made it possible for the company's clients to schedule the coverage of a specific area on Earth to gather data with the help of hundreds of commercial satellites and analyze that data to meet clients' needs. As the Russian army began its buildup along the Ukrainian border, Palantir began to see the war as being inevitable. In one of its demo demonstrations before the invasion, Palantir stated that in just 2 days, there had been over 1,000 satellites flying along the Ukrainian border to track the movement of Russian troops. Once Russia started its full-scale invasion against Ukraine on February 24, 2022, Palantir began to be actively involved in it as well. During the first weeks of the war, Palantir helped the European governments with logistics to provide help to Ukrainian refugees, while its software helped to identify Russian assets in Europe. There are also reasons to believe that the company's software was used by Ukraine since the first days of the war to repel the Russian invasion. In one of the opinion pieces published in the Washington Post in late 2022, the author of the article states that Ukraine's Minister of Digital Information, Mikhailo Fedorov, indicated that software was used to precisely locate and destroy Russian forces for the liberation of Kyiv and other regions. At the same time, during the meeting in Davos at the beginning of 2023, Mikhailo Fedorov also said that the personal leadership of Alex Karp helped save Ukraine. This might indicate that Palantir had been directly involved in the war since the first days of the invasion. In April of 2022, when Ukraine won the Battle of Kyiv and forced Russia to run away from a significant portion of the country, Palantir launched its own satellites to be able to collect and analyze data from space more efficiently. After that, in June of 2022, the CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp, himself visited Ukraine and became the first executive of a major public company to meet with President Zelensky to discuss a close cooperation between Palantir and Ukraine. Shortly after, Palantir opened its first office in Ukraine, and the company's executives and engineers started to frequently travel to Ukraine to customize Palantir's software for Ukrainian needs. In December of 2022, The Times published an article about how Palantir's software helps the Ukrainian army improve the efficiency of its artillery strikes. Shortly after, Palantir's CEO Alex Karp himself admitted the company's software is responsible for most of the targeting of Russians on occupied territories. Then, in February of 2023, the French newspapers reported that Ukraine had received Palantir's SkyKit autonomous systems, which are used to gather intel in extreme and hostile environments, even before their official launch. A month later, in March of 2023, Forbes Ukraine published an extensive piece about Palantir's cooperation with the Ukrainian army. Forbes stated that Ukraine is using Palantir's Edge AI platform that, with the help of artificial intelligence, can autonomously process hundreds of satellite images each day, which saves weeks of manual work for Ukrainian officers and gives them a clear view of the battlefield. Forbes also states that during the liberation of Kherson in late 2022, Palantir has been analyzing data that was gathered by dozens of satellites that flew over the region, which helped the Ukrainian troops drive Russians out of the city. Then just over a month ago, the British national newspaper The Times published a new report which said that Palantir helps Ukrainians find the exact location of Russian ships, tanks, and planes in real time so that the Ukrainian army can efficiently tackle the Russian threat on its soil. The report also says that more than 1,000 servicemen are stationed at the headquarters of brigades throughout the country and are using Palantir software to have a clear understanding of the battlefield. Palantir has recently signed new agreements to use its software to help Ukraine demine its territory, improve its education system, and identify the perpetrators of war crimes. Palantir's experience in Ukraine shows that algorithms and software are already changing the way wars are being fought. And while Ukraine might be ahead of others for now, with respect to the technology that is being used, thanks to the help of its American partners, other countries are starting to use the rise of artificial intelligence software to their advantage as well. By being involved in the Russian-Ukrainian war since the start of the full-scale invasion, it became possible for Palantir to test its software on the real battlefield and figure out how to improve its software to gain a major advantage against its competitors and adversaries. This has already started to bring major dividends to the company. In May of 2023, Palantir was certified as the only supplier of artificial intelligence target tooling for the Pentagon called Project Maven. The goal of Project Maven is to be able to incorporate data from radar systems that see through clouds, darkness, and rain, as well as from heat detecting sensors, and automatically analyze that data to quickly identify points of interest for military personnel. The artificial intelligence models that are built for Project Maven can learn on their own whether changes to objects on the ground are likely to be significant, suggesting, for example, that an adversary is building a new military facility or is preparing an attack against an ally. By deploying its software in Ukraine, Palantir was able to significantly improve its artificial intelligence models that are now being used by the Pentagon through Project Maven. In the last couple of months, the artificial intelligence models of Project Maven were able to locate rocket launchers in Yemen and surface vessels in the Red Sea and helped narrow targets for strikes in Iraq and Syria. In addition to helping the Pentagon, Palantir also plays a key role in supporting Israeli forces in Gaza to make sure that it can support America's partners and also keep its software up to date so that it is prepared to take part in multiple conflicts in the future. Given the latest geopolitical developments, it seems that a major war between some of the world's big powers is only a matter of time if conflicts continue to escalate. By the end of the decade, China desires to fully reintegrate the island of Taiwan with the mainland and lead to artificial intelligence development. At the same time, the slowing economic growth of China could force Beijing to take aggressive actions sooner rather than later to achieve its strategic objectives. To try and retain the status quo in the Indo-Pacific region for as long as possible, the United States has implemented the Integrated Deterrence Strategy that aims to prevent China's aggressive expansion beyond the first and second island chain by closely cooperating with its allies and partners in the region. To deter China from aggressive actions, the Pentagon has also been using Palantir's software to spy on China and automatically identify the potential military buildup to be prepared if the war becomes inevitable. That is why the goal of Palantir is to make sure that the United States is always prepared to fight against adversaries. Alex Karp believes that the country that controls the best software will be able to determine the future, just as the countries that got access to nuclear weapons in the 20th century were able to build the current global order. Considering that Ukraine was able to destroy over 10% of Russia's refinery capacity in a matter of months thanks to its domestically built drones that are run by artificial intelligence models, it becomes obvious that advanced software will decide the results of future wars. As liberal democracies are expected to enter a new period of uncertainty and prepare themselves for the upcoming fight against the new axis of evil, Palantir will be one of those companies that will be on the forefront of defending Western civilization.